If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is our live call-in talk show all about the Wheel of Time. Now, this afternoon, we're back to talk about Josha Stradowski and Becoming Rand. But before we do that, I want to remind you that this upcoming Watt Wednesday, we'll be back here at the Inn with RJ's Notes. Yes, we're finally going to get that fourth episode with Therese and Linda, and we're going to cover fan questions. I can't wait to do that with you this upcoming Watt Wednesday, and the following Watt Wednesday, I'll be here with John from What Up and also from Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern. And then we'll also have the gentleman from The Way of the Leaf here to do the Great Meme Off. Yep, we'll be back with the Great Meme Off. This is a competition we've been running. We got over 200 entries for the Great Wheel of Time Meme Off, and we can't wait to break down the finalist live with you on December 2nd and pick a winner who will actually walk away with $100 from Amazon.com. So yeah, looking forward to those two things. And just as a reminder, before we get started here, if you didn't see our previous Becoming series with Becoming Egwene, you gotta go check that out after the show. It was a lot of fun. We discussed Madeline Madden and her career. And yeah, just like this one, this is our second one we're doing. Make sure you check that out after the show. Now, before I introduce my guests, I want to set the stage by learning a little bit about Josha Stradowski. He was born in the Netherlands, as with Madeline Madden, also caught the acting bug early in life. Beginning theater as a kid in such musicals as The Sound of Music, he followed with appearances in television. We found one such in 2011. He played Freddie in a kids' TV series about a girl who lives in the harbor of Rotterdam and has adventures with her four friends. Throughout his teens, he continued to appear in a variety of television, films, and theater, such as Oedipus. And in 2018, he graduated from theater school. The same year, he starred in the award-winning Just Friends, which is a 2018 Dutch romantic comedy television film about two young men from different backgrounds who fall in love amidst family drama. For his performance, Josha won Best Performance in a Leading Role at Out at the Movies, an international LGBT film fest. He followed this by playing a leading role in High Flyers at Rutger, one of the many training to become fighter pilots in the Royal Dutch Air Force. And of course, most recently in his biggest role yet, he will play Rand al'Thor in the upcoming Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime series. So with that introduction, let's discuss Becoming Rand. And to do that with me, I have two wonderful guests tonight, and let me bring them into the show. Welcome, Master of the Deck and Maria. How are you both doing tonight? Or I should say tonight. I'm used to being at night. How are you all doing today? I guess it is night for you, Maria.
Yeah, I did night, actually.
It's a day for day drinking.
It's a day, yeah. It's nighttime somewhere, right? I love your mugs and glasses there, nicely presented. Now, why we're doing this? We've done this Becoming series about Egwene because, let's be honest, when they started actually casting the show, you both know this, and as well as I do, because I've been watching this and living among fandom. A lot of people reacted to what the cast members looked like. You know, there wasn't a lot of discussion about their acting chops, if you will. So I kind of wanted to know what your both first reactions when Josha was actually picked for this role. Like, Maria, what was your first thought when you saw Josha?
I thought it was, I mean, I know it's like you shouldn't just go by looks to judge an actor, because again, there's that feeling that they actually convey the character. But even just by looks, I was like, he looks exactly like Rand. Like, immediately for me, he was Rand, because he's like, you know, really tall, imposing. He's got, you know, light eyes. He could, I mean, reasonably have I don't know like what color hair he has like in reality. It's like brownish.
According to his resume, it's blonde.
Is it really?
Yeah, but it's that dark blonde, kind of like dirty blonde. So like it could reasonably be, you know, a redhead. So I was like, yeah, he makes totally sense. To be honest, I was really like mind blown by the rest of the casting at the time. Like as soon as I saw all of the casting, I was like literally screaming. Like I was at the park walking my dog and I started like jumping up and down because I was like, this is so amazing. And I was like, Facebook is gonna explode, and I was really happy about it. So yeah, that was my.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook definitely exploded. Master of the Deck. Do you remember seeing Josha Stradowski and hearing his be Rand at first? What was your reaction just initially?
I didn't have a strong reaction to Josha at first, mostly because I don't have a strong mental image of what Rand looks like, you know, beyond tall and red-haired. Right. So when I looked at him, my first impression was just like, sure, I'm here for it. I think mostly like seeing him, people were always going on about how, oh, you know, they're going to cast people that are too pretty. It's going to look like a CW show. And I looked at Josha and I thought, this is not a man who's like, you know, conventionally handsome or attractive. But every time that I've like seen him since then, he's like become hotter to the point where I feel like he's offensively good looking. So, you know, overall positive. Like I didn't go out seeking to watch his work, mostly because all of it's in Dutch and I don't speak Dutch. But I think I watched one of the short films sometime last year when he was cast, and I'm like, yeah, sure.
Well, that's kind of the important part about the show we're doing today, which is, yeah, like the looks aspect. Everyone has like a different vision in their mind of what these characters look like. But in the reality, at least for me, and someone asked me, I think it might have been Daniel Green might have asked me this, which was like, what is it about, you know, wanting me to kind of make a declaration or ask me a question about how I thought these actors would do. But it was in some interview, and I remember saying something to the effect of, I just need to see what they've done before, because I have no idea how they're going to do. Right? Like in the end, looking at them doesn't tell us anything like that. So
right.
I think
casting judgment just based on someone's appearance is pretty bullshit, in my opinion.
Well, it's just like it's not useful. So let's do that. I mean, for those of you that are watching, if you go check out the description to this video, you can see links to the 4 works we're going to talk about today. We might bring up some things we've also seen outside of these 4, but we're going to cover these 4. If you haven't seen them, again, might be difficult if you're live with us here to go watch them while we're doing this. But the first work I wanted to bring up was something I think he had done in, I want to say it was 2013, but it was sometime around there. It was Caged, and it's a short film. I think that it was one of the situations where I don't know how I would explain it. It was a short film about being a friend to someone who's different than you. And in this case, it was someone that had someone that came out or was gay, and Josha had a best friend, and the character he was playing in that, his best friend didn't know that he was gay. And so it was like this. It was just a short film, but it was, to me, it definitely kind of it gave us insights into kind of what he was capable of doing from an acting standpoint. So maybe to you, Master of the Deck, first, when it comes to Caged, are there any things that stuck out to you as far as what you thought that this tells us about how Josha can act?
Because he's been, I've watched 3 short films with Josha in them. And the thing about a short film is, like a short story, you don't have a lot of time to tell that story. It's very compact. And in Caged, there's very little dialogue. While he is the gay best friend here, he's not quite the focus. The focus is more on the development of the other character, who is going from, being a bigoted asshole to being like, okay, yeah, my friend's gay and I'm fine with it. For Josha in particular, it's just a lot of how is he able to convey his feelings about what's going on. Sorry, my cat's lurking here. Without speaking so much, without actually verbalizing things. And I thought he was pretty good at that. And it also shows me that he can be pretty intimidating. Sorry, my cat is an asshole.
Yeah, that was interesting, right? You brought up a couple things there. One, that he can be intimidating, but he doesn't come across that way. And at least in these 4 shows, I think at least 3 of them, I did get that feeling like he doesn't come across intimidating, but in the moment he certainly can get that across.
Absolutely.
To people.
He's such a baby. Like you look at him and he's just like, pouty lips and like, soulful eyes, like a little
Right.
golden retriever. And then like, bam, a switch flips and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because like he's got like this sort of cherub like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden he's like, wow, he's really tall and
I think
like he can really loom.
Huge,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Hashtag huge baby face mounted on tall body. Like, no, that yeah. There's a couple key parts, at least to me, and I want to ask your opinion on Cage, Maria, which is he has this capability of being shy. You see, he does shy really well. Also, the friendship side of this, like all of these kind of have an angle of friendship that we're going to be talking about. I mean, maybe I Can Fly, you could say, is not as clear in that way, but there's an aspect to it where he handles relationships well in a believable way to me. Was there something else that stuck out to you, Maria, as far as Caged, where you said, like, this is really important, I think he does this well?
Well, I think, I mean, Caged, it was hard to watch like these shorts and not just like judge the whole like short movie instead of just Josha's sort of performance in it. So I had to like try and separate this to like more than once. And I mean, to me, it's obvious that like he got the part in Just Friends because of the part that he played in Cage. Like it was basically sort of like a continuation of that. And and I think from Cage, like you could see that like from an early age, like he can really play physical parts well. Like he's always playing this sort of like jock character who's like really into sports, but that has this sensitive side to him. And I think in a way that's Rand, like in a really, really, really simplistic way. Like Rand is like the really healthy kind of farmer kid who all of a sudden has to take on the world. And like, so like really simplistically, like I'm obviously there's like way more like aspects to him, but I think in a way, like I really appreciated that, like from Cage, I could see that he could play the sort of, like, as you were saying, like all of a sudden he can really use his like body, like he can really use his height. He can use the fact that like he can be intimidating if he wants to, but it's obvious that he doesn't want to. Like it's obvious that that's not his personality. He's just something that he does like when he's like really put in a corner, and that's also Rand. So I think those are the two things that sort of like came up like to me at first when I watched the short.
Yeah, I think Cage is absolutely worth seeing for those of you that are watching out there. I think it's like 13 minutes at the most. I mean, maybe it's only 11. Maybe 2 of those minutes were credits. But yeah, I think it's worthwhile to see just how he does the things that you both have brought up here. There's a sensitivity. There's a lack of imposition of his physical nature until he wants to. And that ability to go back and forth between that. And I don't know if it was just camera tricks a little bit in those moments that helped that happen. I was surprised how believable that was, because I'm just used to seeing intimidating characters. It's kind of hard to hide that they're intimidating, but somehow they did it. And again, I don't know if it's because he's a little bit more petite in this one and it was much easier in that regard. But yeah, I did also like and this is kind of consistent, I want to say, at least through a couple of these, he sometimes plays this outsider role, and I think he does it really well. Like and I know he does it well in the sense of being in his head. But I want to switch gears from this one. I'm kind of curious, for those of you that happen to be here with us in chat, I won't be able to see any comments you make on Twitter or Twitch right at this moment, but I can see you over on YouTube and chat. I'm curious if you saw Caged, along with what we've said. What did you like about it? What didn't you? And I like what Estefania said. He is baby. Yes, that's true. He does. He has that aspect still. And it's what's interesting. You might have seen at the beginning when we did that little compilation video. That first part where you saw him, his hair is pretty big, and he's in that like kids TV series. That face has not changed. I think it was Master of the Deck, you said that, or Maria. That face doesn't feel like it's changed in a decade. Good for him. Yeah. Good for him. I want to jump
Eternal
into
Youth.
Eternal Youth. Right. I want to jump into this other short film. It was very short, called I Can Fly. Was there something about this one? And we'll start with you, Maria, this time. There wasn't really much dialogue there, right? It was telling a very short story. Was there something that stuck out to you here?
I think in a way that's probably like the weakest like thing that I've seen him in. I think we were talking earlier on how like if we had any sort of like criticism to him as an actor, or like doubts that we could play a certain range. And I think those were like probably the doubts, which are not really doubts, because I'm sure that he will do like a really like splendid job. But if I had doubts, they would be from I Can Fly. I think like, so basically like, you know, at the start, I think you guys can like watch the short because it's like it's really short. But at the start, he's basically sort of, all of a sudden, like out of the blue, he calls to this girl to come and fly with him. Like, do you believe I could do it? And like, I don't know if it's because it was in Dutch and I don't understand, like, I don't understand Dutch. So obviously, I don't know if someone is like, if someone's acting the lines in a way that is believable or not. But I think that sort of intriguing, like mysterious character is not really in his range, which is okay anyway, because that's not Rand. So, but I think like at the start of that short, he was sort of like this mysterious like traveler figure that you meet on the road, and he's like, can you like go piggyback with me and I'll like jump off and fly. And I know that then it changes and that's not the point of the whole short, but that specific start was like a little bit forced to me. Like he can play like tortured a lot better than sort of like intriguing and beguiling, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, no, that's a good call out. I love that. Again, and of course, we haven't seen every single thing he's ever done, but up to this point, like you're saying, I haven't seen something where, intriguing, beguiling, mysterious. And even when he attempted to do it, I would say he came across more exuberant and innocent. Yeah. But to me, he expressed kind of a trustworthiness, which I did like about that. Like I was watching it mostly, like you said, to kind of, as we move later on in this discussion, talk about Rand, like, what do I see? And so it was in that moment, maybe they didn't succeed in kind of getting a mysteriousness out of it. And like you said, maybe if you watch it, that's not what they were going for. But yeah, I do kind of wonder if that is within his range right now. But like you said, not very important. Master of the Deck, was there something about I Can Fly that you took away from that, as far as from an acting perspective, where he might have some strengths or maybe some things that he's still building on?
I think anybody's opinion of how Josha does in Ich kann fliegen is what your interpretation of the actual story is. And to me, it was a Peter Pan short.
Sure.
He was never supposed to be, he's not playing a trickster character in this short. He's just as lost as the woman who's looking for directions to the train station. And so he gives her the directions, and then out of nowhere, do you believe that I can fly? You know, it's supposed to be jarring in that way, as a sort of like the non sequitur of it. And I thought that, given the context of this short film, which ends up being somewhat like sad and tragic. Like when they are actually flying, sorry to anybody who's going to watch it. And
look, it's a really short. It's kind of hard not to.
Right. When she says, okay, fine. And then he just goes, yes. I remember looking at his face when he does that, and just, the boyish excitement that was there. And then later on, as they're flying and the woman starts drifting away from him, and the loss, just this childish grief that was there is, I thought that was very compelling. Again, he only had a very short amount of time, and the writer of this only had a short amount of time to tell something and to give it impact. And I think, as an actor, it's difficult to do these short films. And so, him filming this while he was a student, still not even finished with his education, and being able to show that nuance, those different emotions, and to give you an identity of this person whose name I don't even remember, but I remember his face and the way that he was expressing himself. I think that gives Josha some credit here. If he were trying to play a trickster character and be beguiling, I absolutely agree with Maria that it would not have happened, because he came off as so, boyish and young, and excited. So yeah, that's all in the interpretation, I would say.
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just I agree that like I really appreciated the later part of the short, where as you were saying, where he displays that sort of like grief and like childish loss, and I think he did that really well. It was more like at the start, like I can see like how you mean like he was not meant to be playing like a trickster, and it's true, but like Peter Pan is also. Peter Pan is not a trickster, but he does have that sort of like mischief. And to me, like, he didn't, as you were saying, like, he looks exuberant and he looks youthful and like naive, but not really mischievous. Like, as I would imagine that, like, he was trying to get across, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree in that part. I think there was something meant to be mysterious about his kind of approach at the beginning that maybe didn't get all the way there. But I guess my overall take from it is that might not really be kind of, I don't know, maybe it's the baby face. It might be the lack of like physical imposition, you know, and that I've seen in other things where I think that's not that he couldn't do it, versus, you know, I could see that being something that would be harder sell for me as a viewer to really see that in what he does and what I've seen him do so far, at least. But there is something I want to bring up. I don't know if that you noticed this one as much. I think it was in that one. The smile got me in this one. When I watched I Can Fly, I don't know, like there's just certain smiles in life, right, that people have. And he has like I don't know if it's goofy is the right word. It's just
it's totally goofy.
Is it goofy? Is that the right word? Okay, yeah.
It's just smile.
I want to. Yeah, that person like goofy. There we go. I don't have a good like. There's something engaging about it. Yeah. It's something engaging about his smile. Like there's nothing scary about that smile, if you will. There's nothing kind of behind it that you feel like, at least from an acting perspective, that's what I saw in that one. So I thought that one was really cool about it, which was that smile to me. As we end up talking about Rand a little bit later, I want to bring that back to this. Now, one of the avenues, or one of the works that he's really well known for was, as I mentioned at the beginning, from an award standpoint, he won an award for this one, is Just Friends. And to me, it's probably it's the most full single work that we've seen him do. Obviously, the next one we'll talk about is High Flyers, but it's more of a serial. It's a series, you know, it's a number of episodes. But this one is a singular kind of film. I loved this film, and I thought it showed growth from what I had seen him do before, right? I'm seeing a growth pathway from an acting standpoint. So I want to go to you to start us off, Mash the Deck. When it comes to Just Friends, what is it that you either saw from a growth standpoint, or what do you think he's doing even better now? You know, where something new capabilities and talents that you didn't see in previous ones. What really stuck out to you in this one?
I think possibly because, it was a full-length, feature-length film, not a television show, not a short. And, the overall quality of the film, the other actors that he was working with, probably the director and the producer as well, he was able to show a lot more range and nuance. He had about 90 minutes as opposed to 9 minutes. And so with Josha, I think what I wrote down, because I just watched this last night, is that he's able to just show more nuance with his expression. There's something about Josha's face that lends itself to stoicism. He can do stoic, serious, angry, scary, smug kind of as well. But, in these really intense emotional scenes that are happening, between Joris and Yad, the characters in the show, in the movie, being able to see at like what's going on here and the way that he's telling the story there as well, it seemed like there was more nuance. But also what I appreciated about Just Friends is that it's a comedy. And in this in particular, not that there weren't funny parts of Hoogvliegers, but in Just Friends, getting to see him be like silly on purpose, wearing like a leather motorcycle jacket, and doing silly things like falling off a surfboard, it was refreshing, because he was able to do those well. He can be goofy, and I appreciate that about him, because I think it's very close to who he actually is as a person. Like he seems like a very fun, whimsical person who likes to play around and have fun, and so his character Joris was able to do that. I think it was closer to who he is than some of these other projects that he's done.
Yeah, the one quality you brought up here I think was really good, which is there's like a maturity in the stoic side of him. And when I say that's just one of the ones that's hitting me, because that's one of the ones I'm really kind of grasping onto, that I think will be really interesting to see how it translates on screen for Rand, which is I can see him in his head, and I can almost imagine what he's thinking, just by seeing him act in that scene. He doesn't have to say anything. His facial expressions, obviously where he's looking, what he's doing, and those things help. But there is a certain just skill that he has in that regard of, like, if you really want to believe there's a lot going on inside his head with a little happening outside, he does that really well. And I really loved seeing that. I loved knowing that as a fan of the books, because I think that that'll come in handy for him. And Maria, anything that stuck out to you that we haven't really discussed from Just Friends?
I think because you were saying about the fact that like you can really guess what he's thinking just by looking at him on stage, and that's actually something that I thought whilst I was watching the movie. There's like a scene, I can't remember, like it was like pretty early on, like maybe when they go to the to get his father's like ash thingy.
Yeah. Right.
Where like you can just look at him and like know exactly what he's thinking. And I thought what you were saying, like he's very good in that. Like you can see that he's a very good actor in the fact that he doesn't need to have like extreme like emotions on his face. You can just sort of guess even when he's trying to be quite stoic. So that was like that's just like a good thing in general, I think, for an actor to be able to do. And the thing that I liked a lot from Just Friends was that he and take this with as many caveats as possible, but he's hot, like in the scenes that like but not like he's hot like beautiful. Like he can really act passionate scenes, like with his co-star, like when they were kissing and you know everything else,
having sex.
Yes
Exactly.
They just like it was like really believable, like you know, like there's some actors that are just really rigid and wooden when they play out any sort of like romantic scene, like romantic or sexual or whatever. Like instead, like you could really sense like the sensuality like coming off him, basically. So like that's a really important part. I mean, he's got 3 like love interests, so it's good to know that like he can actually, you know, act on it. And I think that's
not body shy.
Body shy. Yeah,
that's for sure.
I love it. And by the way, I probably didn't introduce Maria Leah Malandrino here. Memo Art, many of you know her. She has done a lot of the chibi art for the Wheel of Time community. She's a huge fan, and she's a fantastic artist in her own right. You can see her on Instagram and follow her there, and on Twitter. And then we have Mash of the Deck. And Mash of the Deck, you're known everywhere, on Twitter, Discord. Someone of many opinions, which is why I love having you here with us today. Now, I did want to point that out. You brought this up, the sensual side of Josha's performance. Again, I don't want to dig into it just yet, but I think that might be an interesting piece to Rand that I didn't see in Rand's character. And I'm almost looking forward to seeing Josha's take that might fill in something that I feel like was always kind of two-dimensional about Rand himself, if you will. So I'll be, but we can get into that a little bit later. Was there anything else to both of you that stuck out from Just Friends that you think really either showed significant talent, or where you saw maybe there was a struggle to bring something across on the screen?
I think that overall, Josha is very good at sort of, and this is, you know, something that appeals to me in particular, when there's pain happening, like, you know, emotional pain, he's good at sort of like carrying that with him, in you know, in his expression and in his body, and in the scenes where there are those intensities that you know, you can tell that he's hurting. And up until I watched this movie last night, I hadn't really gotten to see him, you know, cry on screen. And he does a good job. I was a little worried. I was, you know, because sometimes you'll get somebody, they do the acting crying, and you're like, this is taking me out of it a little bit. Like, no, he's good.
Yeah. Yes. And that's, again, there was a lot of this as I watched it where I said, like, yes, I want to see this dimension in Rand. But again, as a reader, I just didn't feel like I saw, but it will make Rand, at least for me, come across more genuine. Sorry, Maria, you were going to say something? I wasn't sure if you had something to say.
I was just thinking, like, but I think maybe we will talk about it later on when we actually talk about like Rand's character like and development, because I think there were many aspects in Just Friends that were exactly exemplary of, like, I have scenes in my mind from Wheel of Time that I transposed on Just Friends, and I was like, yeah, he just needs to do that in that scene and it'll be just wonderful. So, but I think, maybe we can talk about it when we talk about Rand.
I think that's a good idea. And Rajesh just pointed out in chat here, but can he go crazy? That's a good question. If you happen to be following us over on Twitter, jump over here. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of sneak peek into this episode, talking all about Josha Stradowski. But yeah, thank you for joining us from Twitter. And if you want to watch the rest of the episode, jump over with us here on YouTube or Twitch, and you can see the rest of this. Now, I do want to remind everybody that this is a live call-in talk show. We're going to open the phones a little bit earlier because we want to weave in your opinions about Josha's work and Rand at the same time. So you can give us a call. The phone number is 1-313-825-5968, or that's 1-313-TALK-WATT. And like I said, as calls come in, I'll try to bring you in and have some conversations with you as we get deeper into this discussion of Rand. And speaking about that, let's switch to this last episode, last kind of piece of work that Josha did, and talk about high flyers. Now, high flyers, is there a good way? Do you want to describe this for us, Master of the Deck? What if everyone was like, "What's high flyers?" What would you describe this as?
In 3 words, it's the Dutch Top Gun, basically.
There you go. Yeah.
And it very much follows a similar character. So Josha plays a character called Rutger de Man, which Rutger the Man, which is makes sense. My Google Lens kept showing me that in the subtitles, and I'm like, all right, well, nuance is gone here, but it's still funny. And it's about a young man who has a lot of childhood trauma and is he's got a lot of walls up. He is very much a loner, a maverick, you might say, who gets into trouble a lot. He's been in and out of the system. And so finally he gets into trouble, and in order to get out of, like, I guess going to therapy or something, whatever the Dutch punishment would be for that, he decides to join the Air Force.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, we get a little bit of the training montage. And so he makes friends with a couple of the people, in his Air Force. And it's a bit of the story of how Rutger gets wrapped up in the intrigues happening in some of the upper echelons of, the Air Force command structure. And the overarching story is tensions between the Netherlands and Russia, and how he gets involved in that with missions in Syria and whatnot. But overall, Rutger himself is, closed off, explosively angry, and kind of a dick, because he has never had to really care about anybody before. He's been on his own. So it's I found it intriguing. It is in Dutch with only Dutch subtitles, so it's a bit of an effort to watch it, but in my opinion, it's worth it because it was the largest body of work I was able to see Josha act in.
Yeah, it is a lot of him in the show, and that's what's really nice about it is you get to see him in a lot of different situations. One I really liked was he was just really frustrated. It showed his range on that side of things, which I think will have some applicability. He got really frustrated in episode 2 about just his training, and that, again, I had to catch this from just like what I was watching because I have no idea what they were saying, but you could see that he just was not. He felt like he was going to be left out of, what I think is, additional training. And there's this moment where he comes out of the building and he kicks a can and he's like getting really pissed off, but you can just tell that he's simmering inside. And what you're getting is a portion of what's there. And that gave me some hope for how that might translate actually into Rand. Maria, did you watch any of High Flyers? Did you?
I watched the trailer, which was subtitled in English. And I tried to watch like some of the episodes, but I just made up my own story in my head. So, it's okay. I love it. I think again it kind of showed like some of the aspects that I appreciated about him in Just Friends, like as Master Deck was saying, like the sort of like explosive anger. And him being a bit smug, a bit arrogant, like he came across as a bit arrogant as well.
Yeah.
Which again, it's something that we need in Rand, like from book 3 onwards, basically. So yeah, that was good to see. And yeah, I mean, it's just, to be honest, like I wasn't able to form like a huge opinion, considering I couldn't really understand anything about the show. But
yeah, that was the only.
I'm gonna trust Master of the Deck's opinion about the overall show, basically.
This one stuck out to me. Again, I only saw a portion of the first couple of episodes, but it seemed to me, and Master of the Deck, correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed to me that he was being teased somewhat, and that he did a good job of taking that in from a social friendship or social group standpoint. You could tell it was bothersome, but he, that there were aspects of it where it just spoke to me like, I think this will translate really well. But he definitely kind of, again, that outsider vibe in his head, wanting to succeed, like building some friendships, but again, I couldn't tell how genuine they were. I don't know what they're saying, but that's what it seemed to me, that was coming across in the acting, at least. Is there something, Master of the Deck, you would say before we jump over to Rand and really talk about Rand? Is there anything else just overall when it comes to High Flyers where you tell people definitely go? Is this something that fans should go watch if they want to get a good idea of his acting chops?
First of all, it's a fantastic story. And it's I don't believe that High Flyers is intended to be a multiple season show. It tells one isolated, it's kind of a mini series, so 8 episodes of stuff. If you go through the effort of, like holding a Google Lens over the subtitles like I did, to translate it into whatever language you want, I think it's helpful. It certainly is. But mostly what I loved about watching Hoogvliegers was getting to see this character that he's playing in these different situations, because all of them are putting different pressures on, his, Josha's ability to act and his ability to portray different emotions. And so you get to see rage from him, and grief, frustration. You get to see him be cruel. You get to see violence and indecision, and all of those different things that are also going to happen to Rand. And so getting to see Josha play off of the other actors that are in there, the way that he's able to work in these different environments. There were times when I was like, if I take myself out of this, sort of alternate universe that we're in, like this could be Rand in the Waste. There's a big part of this that happens in Arizona.
Yeah.
So parts of this are in English as well, because it's a modern Dutch show. Parts of it are in English, but I don't know. It's just I'm excited to see those same pressures put on him in the context of the Wheel of Time, because he did so phenomenally in Hoogvliegers, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is and this one's free. Like, there's no cost to this one. You can go watch it. Again, there's the links in the description of this video for all of these. You can go watch them all right now, I believe. It might be Just Friends, might be Amazon Prime Video only, I think. But the others, you can, again, Master of the Deck came up with an ingenious way to kind of see the subtitles, and that really helps. But if you do want to know and kind of get a feeling for, some of the later tendencies that Rand has, it sounds like you can watch the series and get a good feel for how that might turn out. So that I think he's done some other things, but hopefully for those that are watching, that gives you kind of some idea of what we think about these works and what Josha can do. Let's switch gears to talk about Rand, and with that, let's bring in our first caller to the show. And welcome, Daniel, to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Hey, man. Good to hear your voice. So what's going on, Mr. Green?
I took a break from writing to watch the show and call in because I need an excuse to procrastinate, and I'm very happy to be providing one.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And at the end of this call, I'll just yell at you to get back to writing. But for now, what are your thoughts on Josha's stuff? Have you seen any of these 4 that we've talked about? Have you thought this through? What he might be good at? What he might struggle with?
I have liked his performances in general all around. I think the biggest difference though here is that Rand is such a dynamic character. Farm boy to what he becomes. that it's going to be a gambit of acting. Like there's a full spectrum he's going to have to get into, from comedic moments to heart-wrenching to abusive to, the guy's going to have to go through the ringer. And that's what I'm most excited to see. And I actually had a question for you all, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
What specific scenes from the series, in terms of like things Rand goes through, are you most excited to see performed? If that's okay to ask due to spoilers.
Yeah. That's I'll reach out to those who are watching. Spoilers for now for this call. We'll put a spoilers banner up so you can see that. And if you're listening or watching this, we'll leave that up while we're kind of talking about this, because this question does obviously open it up to spoilers. So yeah, Master of the Deck, is there something that's coming to mind as an answer to this question?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
The scene that I like to think of as the betrayal of Kalendor, when he is fighting the Shan-Shan. And he is, he's full of power and arrogance, and he thinks that he's doing an excellent job, and he just fucking kills a bunch of his own people. And, that particular scene, and then the aftermath of that. It's one of his great failures, in the show or in the series. And there are many of them. And I think getting to see that high and that low, the swift change, the horrible realization of what's happening is absolutely, first of all, it's my wheelhouse. That's the kind of shit that I like. But also very challenging, something that I would like to see Josha do, and that I think he would be able to do well.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Maria, what's coming to mind to you?
So I think a scene that would be really difficult to do, it's the box scene, because he has to actually portray actual pain. So it's not just emotional, like he's literally like in pain like all the time. And I think it's really difficult to get like a good range where you don't just like when you're making it believable and like in a sort of like heart-wrenching way for the audience to really like get in that mindset and be like, wow. And also like in a way I think it would be even more difficult later on, where he goes to what's the name, it's on the tip of my tongue, the place where nobody can channel.
The city.
But it's not a setting.
Formatting.
Yeah. When he's in formatting and he gets caught by the guard, and like he's put in prison there, and he goes back, like the trauma like takes him back to when he was put in the box, and he goes like he's going completely nuts. And I think that would be even more difficult, because it's like it's like a direct link with the box, but there's no box, so like he can't show us like physically the pain that he's feeling, and he can just show it like psychologically and like act it out. And I don't know how they're gonna do it. Like, I mean, if we're gonna have like also cuts and like director sort of like things that will like switch between flashbacks or that
right
moment.
Like how they'll portray
so I mean, of course,
yeah.
There's like the whole thing. I mean, it's how it's going to be portrayed, but like his performance has to be like really on point and really like really raw and heart-wrenching. So yeah,
those are both really good ones. I'm going to go more simple here, which I think is something that he'll do really well, and he has to be able to do really well. I think the believing the relationship between him and Matt and Perrin and Egwene and Nynaeve and Tam, I think Josha will actually do this fantastically. And I think that is one of the things we have to key in, and they have to get right at the beginning. He has to be believable. He has to be sympathetic. We have to care about him, because he has this huge arc, like Daniel, you just pointed out. And I think we have to be on his side to do that right. And I think Jordan does that really well, obviously from a point of view perspective, like we're in his head so we can get there. And I think Josha can bring us there, even though we don't have that benefit, if you will. From what I've seen him do, at least, I think that aspect, relationships, I think he does, and he acts well for his age and from what I've seen. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And I'm hoping that will catch the viewers, minds and hearts, if you will, because he has to have that by the end of the first season, in my opinion, to really carry through the rest of the show. What are your thoughts, Daniel? You came up with the question, what's your scene that you think he'll do best in, or that you think you might either, or he has to do well in, and it might be a struggle?
Well, you guys obviously had the best answers, so I can't top what you guys brought in.
That's a cop out, man.
But a bit more. If I had to choose, I would say there's two specific transitions. After he nearly kills Min, I would love to see that performance because he's obviously the lowest low. He's, I would say, basically broken at that point. Yeah. And then the transition also on top of Dragon Mount. I think that's going to require some insanely high caliber acting to not come across corny and actually land really well with the audience. So that as well is something I am kind of just fixated on, to seeing how it goes.
Man, if we get there, can we just get there? Yeah, let's just get there. I want to get there. Hey, Daniel, thanks so much for that question. It's a great question. I'm glad we could give you a break from the responsibility you have as a writer to make the best out of your time. So with that in mind, feel free, of course, to watch the rest of the show, but good luck in writing for the rest of the day today. Okay, man?
All right, have a great one, Matt, and both your wonderful guests as well.
Hey, thank you, man.
Daniel.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, good question. And it's getting us into that. What was helpful about that question, which is what do they have to get right about Rand, is where I wanted to go and talk about. And so I think that they're doing that aspect really well. And Taylor, you can take down that spoilers banner for those of you that were waiting for the banner to go down. Welcome back. We'll try to stay no spoilers for the short time here, but we'll probably have to put that banner up a couple times. Let me bring in our second guest to the show. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel, Malkier Talks, or Rob as we know him. What's up, man? How you doing?
How's it going? I'm good. How are you guys?
Well, you sound exuberant for it being 2 o'clock in the morning where you're at. So how are you doing?
It is not 2 o'clock in the morning. It is only 10 to 10 at night. So.
Oh, I thought it was 2 o'clock for you. Okay, great. I'm glad.
It is on Wednesdays, but it's Sunday.
Oh, on Wednesdays.
Right,
okay, yeah.
it's Sunday time.
Yeah, I forgot we're on Sunday time. This is like reasonable. We were actually getting you in like, I don't know, do you think better about the Wheel of Time at 2 o'clock in the morning or at 10 p.m. in the evening?
I don't know. It depends how much you like my question.
Okay, let's get to your question then. So what's your thoughts?
I mean, Master of the Deck might know more than anyone else because I know she's been studying all week on it. But which parts of Rand's character do you think Josha will play best, and consequently, which might he play worst?
Okay, Maria, and we started with Master of the Deck last time. Is there one where it just stands out to you? Rand's characteristics, you see something and you're like, Josha does this and he's going to do this fantastically.
I think he does sort of self-doubt really well, self-doubt that goes into anger. Like he did it in Just Friends. There's a moment where he's really insecure. Basically, he keeps asking his he's not his boyfriend at the time, but anyway, he keeps asking him do you think I'm stupid? And he's obviously really worried the way that he comes across to the rest of the world, and he usually in that movie brings it out as aggressiveness or aggression towards other people. And I think that's something that Rand does a lot. He feels constantly for the whole of the series that people are judging him, or that people are expecting things from him, or are expecting him to fail in a way. So I think he will do that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that does transcend a lot of the works that we just talked about today. The self-doubt angle. I think that's a great one to pick up, because I think that will come across fantastically. Master of the Deck, how about for you?
There are two things. I absolutely agree with what Maria said. I think that Josha will do the sort of confused lost puppy of Rand's character as well, which is very much, an early story aspect to him. And then terrifying indifference. I think that Josha will absolutely nail the parts of the story where Rand is sort of the contrast between what's going on inside and what's happening outside, where he is struggling to hold on to, the last of his marbles, all of the compromises he's had to make, all the failures he's had to go through, and is just, he checks out, right? Rand is no longer home. And when it's just, I believe what I'm thinking about in particular is there's a scene, this is vague, so not quite a spoiler, I suppose, when he's riding through a city of starving people and just nothing.
Yeah, I think he'll absolutely nail that. The indifference and the self-doubt. I'm going to try to go the opposite side angle of these two answers, which is to say, I think he's going to do I don't know if it's innocent. Maybe that's not the right word that I'm looking for, but naive isn't quite. But yes, it's somewhere around there. That is to say, like, he's going to be believable when it comes to. Yeah, earnest. There we go. Yeah, thank you. That's the better word for this.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he can do that. Like, I don't know if in person he's that way, but I think he can do that. He can sell that really well. And so I think that also, this pairs with my comment to Daniel, which is, I really want to believe that he's this outsider with, who loves his friends and earnestly is, somewhat maybe naive a little bit, but just in an earnest, like, everything's great and grand, and he smiles and he's happy. And then I want to see that change, right, over time, which is that character arc piece of that. And I think he can absolutely, we can get the self-doubt that underlies that, of course, and we'll eventually see the indifference that comes about. But yeah, I think the mix of those, I think that would be fantastic. And I think he has the capability to do that from what I've seen so far. Rob, what's your thoughts on this question for yourself? Is there anything that we haven't brought up that you think that Josha will do well?
Well, I've not seen a lot of his work. I've just seen little bits here and there. I'm probably going to sit and do what Master of the Deck did and pretty much watch everything from start to finish from the links you've put up. But I really hope that he's the scene that was mentioned is him riding through and like everyone's starving and he's just like, I don't care, is very cool. But also the scene where, again, trying to be vague for no spoilers, where he runs off to a town controlled by someone else, thinking that he needs to rescue them, and finds out that they're actually living a pretty decent life under those people, when he's just the disbelief in his own moment where he's got to, I've got to go rescue them. And he turns up and is like, maybe they don't need rescuing. Maybe I'm the bad guy. That's the self-doubt for a moment there. That is, moments like that is really what I'm hoping he can pull off. And as you say, from what everyone has watched, it seems to be one of his key things. So.
Yeah, and I absolutely believe that it's useful. Hopefully you've felt that way for those that are watching, to go back and see some of this work that he's done. Why we have, it sounds like from those of us that have seen it, why he does at least engender this belief that he can pull off these aspects that we're talking about to Rand's character. And if you happen to be with us still, and you're over here on YouTube, and you want to like this video, or on Twitch, you want to subscribe and follow us there, please do. We'd love to have you with us as we make a journey to the premiere of this show, which we hope at this point will be sometime in 2021 is where we're at right now. Hey, Rob, thank you so much for calling. Thanks for sticking around. And I'm so glad we got to talk when it's not 2 o'clock in the morning. So good on us.
No, I appreciate it. It's lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good rest of the evening. Talk to you soon.
You too. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Famous last words. You know he's going to be on Discord all night.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you that don't know, we do an after show on Discord, and when the show's over, you can go catch us on Discord. We'll chat about Rand. We can chat about the show we did on Egwene. And I did want to bring up that mix here. We'll bring in a next caller here, but then I want to talk about what I think that Josha at least is telling me that will actually be really positive for the relationship that I think he'll have with Egwene and Madeline Madden's actual acting chops. I think they pair really well for this twosome that we have between Rand and Egwene. So let me bring in this next caller to the show. Hey, Troy, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great.
Hey, man. So what's your thoughts? What we've said, either we've covered about Rand, what made you call?
I don't think the self-doubt is a big play with Rand. Even within all his other things, it's just not there. His biggest problems that I see in the film will be his interactions with, like, men, who's a flirt, and his interactions with Perrin, when he has to say that Perrin's the bad guy, etc.
Yeah.
Those are the types of relations that this guy is going to really deal hard with.
With the one you brought up, the one about brought the one about Min. Are you saying having a believable? You haven't seen his acting chops as far as having kind of a believable flirtatious relationship. Is that what you mean? Or, as in, you think he'll have struggled to kind of pull off that aspect of it?
Yes, I do believe that he'll have a little bit of struggle to pull off that aspect of it, but not totally, because he's got great actors around him that will help him with it. But that's one of his weak points.
And the one you're talking about with Perrin, I think the one you're talking about is when in Faldara he tries to like make his friends kind of leave him, basically. Is that the part you're saying?
No.
Oh, okay. Which part are you bringing
up?
No,
whenever he tells Perrin to go away and take care of
Mathema.
What's his name? Mathema.
Oh, okay.
So when they fake.
Oh, the fake fight. Gotcha. You think that he might not? That'll be a challenge for him, is what you're saying.
I think that'll be a challenge for him to pull off the reaction that he has to have to a great friend, because him and Perrin are great friends. They're like two. You got 3 and 3, but they're like 2 and 2. They're sort of polar opposites. They're not polar opposites, but they're a little bit closer. And that type of scene is going to be harder for him to pull off, based on what he's played before.
Yeah, no, I think that that's an interesting question, if you will, and I think any of those from a maturation standpoint. The good thing is we won't get to some of these scenes for a while, and I think him building into the role will be good. I have a question for you though. What do you think that he will like? What do you think that Josha, and I think Rob brought this question up when he just called. What do you think that Josha will do well? That you think that will carry into his portrayal of Rand?
Oh, that's totally easy. His portrayal of the relationship between him and Egwene. He's done it well throughout his career, and I think that's going to be his big point that helps him.
Yeah, I actually very much agree with this idea that I think he's going to do it better than Rand does. I think I'm going to like his portrayal of those relationships better than Rand. Hey, Troy, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for waiting online for us. And thanks for sharing your thoughts. Have a good one, okay?
You too.
Yep, bye-bye. Yeah, that's an interesting question. His ability, I want to circle back on the idea that Troy brought up from a believable moment of really expressing this believable anger with his friends and such. Did you see anything, did both of you see anything from his previous work where you feel like he's going to be able to be the bad guy, if you will, and he's going to do that part well in a believable fashion?
Yes. And Hoogvliegers, it's one of the main arcs of the show is sort of, there's like a friend breakup that happens. And the character he plays is a very abrasive person who has a lot of secrets and doesn't want to or talk to or confide in people. And in particular, there are several scenes where there is, his friend Layla who believes that he betrayed her, and that he is the reason that her career was tanked, basically. And so, I think about those scenes between those people. And the way he reacted defensively and, the lashing out, there are some really intense, if you ever watch, Josha's show reel, the first scene that you see in it is, between, him and his sister in the TV show Hoogvliegers, where he basically screams in her face that he doesn't want to talk to her anymore. He doesn't want to hear from her. She's dead to him. And it's pretty scary. And it's believable. I think that it's an interesting take that he would be challenged that way, maybe by that time in the story. when there has been that relationship built between those people.
Right.
You know, Yasha could have some challenges with anybody would. You know, I'm sure he probably was challenged by doing that in Hoogvliegers, but I have seen him do it well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Again, for those watching, I think that's the one you're going to get probably just the largest amount of different, you know, interactions with people and acting challenges. So definitely watch that, High Flyers.
Sorry, I keep bringing up the one that's literally the
it's
hardest to get through if you
it's
don't
good.
speak Dutch.
It's good. It's good. Like I said, I watched some of it. And again, all of these have really made me trust that he'll be able to kind of pull this off. Let me bring in our last caller, and then we can jump back. And then I want to kind of just scattershot talk about Rand, where we see some challenges, you know, in relationships and what we're excited for of seeing, you know, beyond everything we talked about here. But let me just bring this last caller from Sweden into the show. Hey, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing today?
Well, hello. Hello, it's Stubble McShave here.
Hey, Stubble McShave. How you doing?
I had a comment and some questions as well.
Okay.
The relationship you mentioned, you failed to mention one of the most important one, and that's towards the later half of the series, the one he has with Loose Hair and Telemon.
Yeah, and this is a good. I mean, let me just remind everyone who's watching. This will be a little bit of a spoiler potentially if you're watching as we talk about this. So we'll throw a spoiler banner up just so people that are watching know. Go ahead, Stubble.
Yeah, and one of my favorite scenes, since you mentioned favorite scenes earlier, that's the one that's related to a manor scene, the aftermath of the manor scene, and I just wondered, what do you think? How will he play it when the aftermath happens? To be cryptic.
Is this the scene? You're talking about the scene in Kyrian? Is that what you're talking about? Which scene are you talking about specifically?
At the manor when they're attacked, and he has an interaction with Loose Hair.
Like
at the manor. Yeah, right. That I think that. I think that'd be challenging for any actor. I think the whole concept of Loose Theron, and maybe let's bring that up to you both, Maria, when it comes to this idea.
You just went like muted. Yeah.
We can hear you. You sound a little weird, but we can hear you.
I think it hugely depends on how they do it, like in terms of like the direction of the scenes. Like, are we gonna hear a voice, like a voiceover coming from outside of the scene? Are we gonna like see flashes of the actor who's gonna play Luz Therin and like Josha and Luz Therin in a dark space, sort of like talking to each other in person? Like that would change hugely how he's gonna act it. So I don't really know how to answer. Like, I think, of course, like it's such a difficult part to play, like the guy who speaks with someone in his head, that we haven't seen like Josha doing it in any other part, obviously. I think he could do it, but I don't know. I think I'm sorry. I was getting lost in the chat there because apparently you were muted for other people as well as okay. But yeah. So I think it will depend hugely on how they decide to play out the whole interaction, camera wise and direction wise. But I think it will definitely take him a lot not to make it too cringy, because it could be one of those things where it does sound like, it does come across as like cringe. So yeah, it's gonna be difficult and challenging. But as you were saying, like these difficult parts, it's good that they come like at a later date. So we have like 2 seasons potentially before he has to get into that space, and by then like he will also have aged a little bit, and like his physical sort of like rugged, like more rugged appearance might also help with the whole acting as well. So
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're right in that aspect. I think that's, and to Stubble that's on, how do you want to see them portray this relationship? How do you want to see them portray Lews Therin's voice in his head? Like, what do you think is the right way to do this?
I think it should. Did you ask me or did you ask someone else?
No, yeah, go ahead,
Sorry.
Stubble, and then no worries.
Go ahead, Stubble.
Stubble, you go ahead. Yeah.
Right. I think of that movie with Russell Crowe where he plays the mathematician who sees imaginary people. Yeah, right. I think it could play like that he's the only one who sees this person and interacts with him at times, and the people around him just look confused.
Yeah.
And I think that they play something like that.
I think people being confused around him is going to be key to getting it right, which is I don't really want to see a whole other person kind of walking around a room and like, I don't know. I'm hoping they don't do that, but I think confusion around him would be good. Master of the Deck, do you have an opinion, like thoughts on this and how you think it would be done well?
I would like some visual aspect to it eventually, mostly because and spoiler warning, mostly because the infection of Lews Therin begins small and then grows larger and larger, and depending on whatever meta theories you have about who Lews Therin actually is and what's actually going on, the very first manifestation is not inside Rand's head; it's coming out of his mouth in Ridian when Lanfear is there and he says, "And you loved power." That sort of that jarring aspect to it, so that it begins as that sort of that echo and that whisper, or that sort of was that me or was that something else, and then through those various trials and traumas until the box breaks the seal on that, and Lews Therin is now at least to Rand, Lews Therin is now a separate and unique and an entity that is able to work against him in some ways. So I have thoughts that a visual aspect to that as a way of portraying what's happening in Rand's head, because there's a lot of Rand that we get from his own perspective, right? From his point of view, that other people have no idea what's going on, which makes, the perception of him as this terrifying, unhinged character really interesting, because we get to know what he's thinking and what's happening. Other people don't. They don't know that he's struggling with a madman, with distantly weeping inside of his mind. So to just have something visual represent that other people can't see but is still there would be pretty neat to me. Yeah.
I think as something that grows, I think I'd be okay with that. And I don't want to go too deep into the LTT hole here, which is, I think we've talked about doing an episode, we will, that really digs into what this is and how it should be manifested. But hey, Stubble, just wanted to thank you for being online here with us and for calling in with that question, that reaction, man. Really appreciate you calling in. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah. Bye.
Hey, bye-bye. Yeah, right. Sorry for the audio loss there for some of you that are watching. But yeah, I want to say this, which is it has to start off soft. Whatever they choose to do, it has to start off really small.
Yeah.
If they jump into that, would be to me the biggest failure of the show.
Oh God, it would be terrible.
If they jumped into immediately showing some other person and he's seeing him in the room, even in season 1, it would really just annoy me. It would kill me. But jumping back to the idea of Josha playing that, do you see that as part of his chops, Maria? This ability to have a voice in his head, and this growing voice that influences him and maybe his actions, how he speaks, what he does, and
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think it's part of that sort of my initial doubt about him being able to play slightly unhinged, sort of mysterious character. I think that's the thing that he will struggle with the most. I think he will do farm boy, naive and trustworthy and angry, sort of aggressive world leader really well. And I think the madness is the part that I'm most concerned about, just because it needs to be very subtle. it's as we were saying, like we don't want Luz Sterling to be like suddenly like in the room. It's more like for a while it will be just sort of like echoes, and I think they can do it really well with just like camera angle and like him sort of like, you know, turning around and like hearing stuff. So it needs to be like really much like in his head and like not really there for anybody else. So I think that's the thing he will struggle with the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is a fun this particular question, and luckily we have some time to get there. I just hope the writers have not gone too far afield on this already in season 1. We will find out. We'll find out hopefully sooner rather than later. Although maybe it'll be later, much later in 2021. Who knows? That is, for those who are watching that saw the spoiler banner up, we'll pull that down for right now. And I did want to ask you both here, when it comes to Madeline, I don't know how much you've watched of what she's done in comparison to this. Do you see a good convergence of Egwene and Rand in Madeline Madden and Josha Stradowski when you've seen their works and kind of compared their acting abilities? Do you think this is going to pair well?
I have not watched any of Madeline's work.
Okay.
So
I follow her assiduously on Instagram.
Right. I follow her on Twitter and Instagram. So like, you know, I'm up on like, you know, her activism and, you know, all of that stuff.
And I think that's very Egwene.
Right. If she
like
is
Egwene,
as badass as she is in real life as Egwene, I think it'd be great. And just from, you know, the various little interactions and selfies and all that other bullshit that we've seen, you know, it was Madeline that gave us that treasure trove of Yosha's, you know, like the 6 stages of drunkenness from Instagram. Right. So, yeah, I think, you know, it's always nice to have a good working relationship with somebody. And I think both of these young, you know, these young thespians will be able to pull off a pretty interesting dynamic experience.
Yeah, what I had watched, and if you haven't seen the episode we've done on Egwene, you go back and watch it. To me, this is once I saw what Josha had done, I absolutely believe in Egwene wanting out of the 2 rivers, and as Madeline Madden, and Rand wanting to stick with kind of like this world that he knows and being in his head, and as Josha. And actually, now that I've seen their works, I feel like I understand why those who cast these 2 saw them as people that could pull off this relationship. And actually, I kind of believe that Josha will bring, I think I said this earlier, you brought up like sensuality, Maria. I think there's something that Josha will actually bring to this, where I'll actually believe that he does love Egwene. Like in the books, I feel like it's kind of like, it's kind of more puppy love, if you will. It's kind of like expected, you know, kind of like I don't know, it's just village love. I don't know, it sounds weird, but to me, I think he'll actually bring like more passion to that relationship, or he could, depending on how they write him. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is a believable relationship that breaks, in fact, there. So, sorry, you were going to say something, Maria.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, because I feel like you were saying this as well, like earlier on, that like Rand as a character in the books doesn't come across as particularly like sensual, or really like in that mind space of even really like having anything to do with sex kind of thing. And that's something that I think Josha can add to the character rather than just portray as it was written, because I think basically Rand in the book is like, it's a bit of a prude, and like almost, I mean, and of course he's a product of like Two River Society, and like Two River Society is very prudish and very sort of like, there are some things that are proper and some things that are not, and you should basically not do anything at all until the women's circle says you can. So, and to be fair, Rand doesn't seem to be interested at all. Like he, as you were saying, like it does sound with Egwene at the start, it does sound like he's sort of thought about her in a very abstract kind of way. Like she's pretty and she's got big eyes. So right. He kind of wants to dance with her, but it doesn't, it comes across as very young, because it doesn't look as though he's ever even thought about like kissing her. Like we don't even know if they ever kissed.
Right.
Like that doesn't seem something that they actually did before. Like, I don't think they ever kiss in the whole series, and in theory they're like almost engaged. So
yeah, there's something very juvenile about it.
Yeah, like
books.
it's almost like that's either like incredibly unrealistic, because I don't believe that an 18-year-old in any world of society can act that way. Like, it's just not like doesn't happen. Or it's just, I mean, Robert Jordan had like a weird sort of relationship with writing romance anyway. Like, I personally think that that's the thing that he does worst.
Oh no, he sucked at it.
Yeah. I was trying to be diplomatic.
That's all right.
Yeah,
that's why I'm here.
He's really bad at it. So yeah, I think it would be nice to see that aspect like in the show, because that's just an important aspect of life, and that's just something that was willingly like ignored in the books. So yeah, no, that's good. Was there something that we didn't bring up, Master the Deck, as far as Rand, that we think is important for them to kind of make sure that they communicate, that Josha brings that to bear to really flesh out Rand that we know in the books?
I think the primary challenge, and Matt, you talked about this a little bit, that Josha is going to face is that he's playing two different characters. And one of those characters is one that we as readers never really get to know. We don't know who Rand al'Thor is. The only person that we get to know in the Wheel of Time series is the Dragon Reborn. Almost from the beginning of the Eye of the World, Rand is dropped into, the first of many identity crises. We can make inferences and guesses about, the actual fundamental core of who Rand al'Thor is, right? The person that is slowly chipped away by the trauma and experiences and compromises and choices that he makes and experience throughout the series. But Josha is going to need to know who that person is. He's going to need to have a sense of, okay, who is Rand al'Thor? And then as all of these things happen to the Dragon Reborn, that is the character that we're going to see the most of, those changes and that dynamic that's happening, going through all those phases and those different steps and changes that happen from, just starting out and trying, and in the Darth Rand period, you might call, the way through Epiphany and the ending of the story. So Josha is going to need to keep all that in mind and have, this sort of, nesting doll of, Rand here at the center, who he's going to have to kind of do the heavy lifting on that, along with the writers, and decide who that character is when he does shine through in those certain places. And then that slowly growing and changing and constantly evolving, or breaking down, you might say, character of the Dragon Reborn. He's never going to be able to get comfortable in the character that he plays, because the character that he plays is always changing. And I think just the range that I've seen from him, that it will be challenging for him, but that he will be able to do it. If those bits and pieces of those emotions that I mentioned before, if he's able to bring those out when they're needed, if there's good direction and he's got good writing to work with, I think that Josha is going to absolutely kill it. As both Rand al'Thor and the Dragon Reborn.
I think that's a really well put, which is that the changing aspect of who he is pretty dramatic, and it happens throughout the entire series. And that's that, if they don't get right, will not. He won't be able to act that well, right? So the writers and his understanding of that character have to kind of merge together there. So we do have one other caller who's been waiting on here. Let's bring him in as the last caller, last kind of word here before we close up shop here at the inn for the day. Let's bring Alex into the show. Hey, Alex, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, good. good. So, and you, what is it that we've talked about so far, either from Josha's work or about Rand, either we haven't brought up, or a question you have for the panelists?
The previous conversation kind of ties into it. I've been reading this series since I was 8. It's kind of my life.
I totally feel that.
Like, for real, since I was a child, I've been reading this series.
Sure.
The biggest obstacle to the character of Rand is the fact that as you read the entire series, it's not one character. He changes greatly and very subtly. Rand in book 3 is not Rand in book 4. There is a small change, and as you go on, it keeps changing. I don't know, Josha, I did not see your guys' conversation about his prior work, but he has to be a different person each season because Rand changes. The Rand who treats Taim like trash in book 6 is very different from the sweet boy in book 2. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Yeah.
He changes as time goes on.
Yeah, and I think Master of the Deck was bringing this up just a minute ago, which was that is going to probably be their biggest challenge. I would say of all of the cast members, he has the most difficult arc as a character, and because of that, because of just how dramatic and subtle those changes can be, and how much they continue. Right, he doesn't get to like ever stop. There's some change that's happening, and either he's going deeper into some things, he's having some recognition that makes him, if you want to say, colder, if you will. But yes, that is going to be the biggest challenge. The good thing is, I want to say that I think they picked someone that is old enough to have had experience from an acting standpoint and a life standpoint, I think, to bring some subtlety to that role. I would be worried maybe if they'd picked an actor that was literally, like, let's say 16 years old, and trying to carry that person into this. I feel like he has, he's old enough to have had experience, hopefully to pick up these things or be able to communicate what the writers are hoping he will from that perspective. So that's my thought on it, at least. Was there something that you have or you believe that he will do well, Alex? From either from our conversation we've talked about it, or just from what you might have looked up about Josha, do you think he'll be able to translate something immediately well about Rand?
I hope he will. I haven't seen a great deal of him as an actor. I'm mostly concerned about, towards the end of the series, the loss of hand, the dark Rand, that whole thing. That is going to be hard to do in comparison to the early Rand. And then immediately switching into wise Rand at the end of the series is going to be, that's a quick change.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a, and for those that, I'll keep it to wise Rand is a good place to, I don't want to go too deep there from a spoiler standpoint. For those that are watching, we haven't thrown a spoiler blame, but yes, the immediacy of some of the changes will be pretty dramatic. I recommend, for those of you that are watching, to you, Alex, go check out these. Like I said, their links are in the description. Go check these out. They don't take a lot of time. Other than High Flyers will take you some time and effort if you want to know what they're saying, even you don't speak Dutch. But I highly recommend it because I came away feeling much more confident that that this is going to be one of the characters that I feel really like going in, feel like he's going to be able to easily handle what the weight of season 1 is, at least up front. So, hey, Alex, thank you very much for holding online. Appreciate you sticking around and sharing your opinion. Well, hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday.
Always,
okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
If you're more confident.
Oh, sorry, Alex. Said bye, and then I lost you there. Apologize for hanging up there right as you were saying something. So, I think that aspect of Rand later on will be something that we have to hope that he'll just grow into that role. Again, you can't predict how well these things are going to happen years down the road as this character evolves. So, I've been watching in chat this crazy other conversation be happening in chat while we're talking. So if you want to come back and actually have 2 shows and you want to watch this later, feel free to jump and watch chat because there's some conversations going on there that I love it. Every once in a while, it's totally completely disconnected, or it's somewhat tangentially related.
Matt.
Yeah. Go ahead.
My first experience with the Dusty Wheel was actually calling into the show last year when you had Jess and Jen from the White Tower Pod on.
Oh, okay.
And that, in my first read through of the Wheel of Time, I was right there on Team Rand. I was with him the whole time. And it was only after I entered the fandom and I started, interacting, because I try to avoid fandoms before I'm done with something, that I realized how divisive of a character he was. And I was surprised by it. I was surprised by that. But, you know, the wonderful thing about this fandom and about Robert Jordan and the characters that he created is that they are enormously complex. They are, and that's why they can be so divisive. And that's why someone like Josha Stradowski is going to have such, you know, a hell of a job in front of him. You know, he's got big shoes to fill, so to speak, in terms of bringing this character to life. And the writers are also going to have this same issue. You know, how do we bring Rand al'Thor to life in all of those aspects of him? How do we create a character that some people are going to love and some people are going to hate? How do you create a narrative, and then how do you portray that narrative in such a way that is going to do justice to a character that generates these opinions and these deep feelings? I was talking to Morgan from Podcast of the Dragon about just Wheel of Time characters in general, and that the more I talk about them and the more that I hear how other people feel about these things, and from those different perspectives, it enriches them. And so a character like Rand, I love. You know, he's just a character that I was destined to love. I like the broken character, okay? I won't apologize for it.
No, like you said,
but
I think
I also get other people's perspectives.
Well, it's such a, like you said, there's so much about these characters over so many books that honestly, there's so many valid opinions to have had the entire time you read them, the first time you read them, depending on how old you were, like what age were you when you first read them, and then when you come back and read them later, and what your life experience was and how it changes how you view what they do. So yeah, I love that aspect, and that's what I think they were talking about in chat, was like digging into Rand's characterization and later on things that happen. So for those of you that are watching or listening, lots of spoilers in chat this evening, it seems like, from what I saw.
But it was all about murder, so
yeah, exactly. The discussion of murder, if you would like to see that in chat, definitely follow that along as you're watching back. Thank you both for being willing to jump in, doing your homework. Appreciate that, like digging in and getting to know Josha Stradowski. That was a lot of fun. And definitely, if you want to follow these wonderful people, you can go follow them on Twitter, Instagram. I think, Master Deck, you on Instagram or just Twitter? And I can't remember if you're there on Instagram with us.
I am on Twitter. I do have an Instagram, but I have to keep it sort of separate from my other internet identities, just because I've got like work colleagues that know who I am there.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm Pan Malazan. I'm the Master of the Deck on Twitter. I'm around on the Discord. I'll be in the Dusty Wheel Discord chat later on. So come say hi. I'm always here to talk about Rand.
Come say hi, and if you want to follow the wonderful work that Maria's doing, go check out Instagram's where you really, really want to follow her, but you can follow her on Twitter too. Memo Art or MLM.
Most of the Wheel of Time stuff is on Twitter. So,
yeah, exactly. If you want to see the Wheel of Time stuff, if you want to just follow her work, she's amazing on Instagram. It's MLM_illustration, I think, is fantastic. Yes. And really appreciate those of you that stuck around and hung out with us here in chat. It's fun to see your conversations going as we're breaking this stuff down. Remember to come back and be with us on Wednesday. Robert Jordan's notes. Yes, his actual notes. If you've never seen these episodes we've done before, go watch the first 3. They're a lot of fun. And Therese and Linda, they know their stuff when it comes to the Wheel of Time and these notes. So yeah, come join us on Wednesday, and we'll go over fan questions. It's going to be a really fun episode. So I'm looking forward to that. And so I guess we'll see everyone out there on Wednesday. As we say around here, though, good afternoon from the Dusty Wheel, and smash to black.
If you want news and rumors that